What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio on SiriusXM, channel 142 HBCU. In the building, big interview today. We're celebrating Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Founders Day. And y'all already know, if y'all know about HBCU Pulse, we gotta do it big. So I had to go out and get the biggest interview I could get. So I had to go and get China Lovelace, writer and personality on the Shade Room, and a Virginia State University alumna. China, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. And, shout out to you. You want to do your big one on Sirius.
Listen, we're trying to make it happen here. We're trying to do it big like you all do it at the Shade Room. You know, I'm super inspired by the Shade Room. Had the opportunity to interview Angie back in 2021. So I'm just trying to do it big. So first and foremost, speaking of doing it big, AKA Founders Day. How are you feeling? Like, you out here, big AKA, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Me and my sorors out here in LA, we got a little thing we doing before Founders Day. We put a little stroll video out. So we've been prepping all the past couple months. We recorded this weekend. So it's going to be really good. We're going to Pearl Jam out here in LA. A couple sorors put it together every year. So I think it's going to be big. It's going to be my first Founders Day in LA. So I'm excited.
It has to be cool. Like, LA always does it big from what I see. I've never been to LA, but for what I see is always doing it big, and that's like Black culture on 10. So I know you have a lot of fun with that. But I want to get into just, your backstory, especially like, your HBCU story and, your journey after your time at Virginia State University. So let's start with that. So what made you choose Virginia State University as your HBCU?
So I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from San Leandro, California, but I grew up in Stockton, which is about an hour from Sacramento, an hour and 15 from Oakland. So I always knew I got to get out of Stockton. Ain't nothing going on here. It's the trenches, okay? And I'm from the south side of Stockton. But my family just always instilled education. My great-grandmother was an engineer. My mom was just like, you going to college. She wanted me to do better than she did and my father did. So I knew about Virginia State because of BET College Hill. I never heard about it before then, but I seen the show and I was like, oh, Virginia State lit, I'm going there.
Wow. You know what's so interesting? I interviewed Ray Cunningham that was on that season. And I told him on the interview that is my favorite season. And just the intersection of how media can influence our decisions in that way, I think is amazing. So let's just walk through your time at VSU, right? So talk about your freshman year. So you wanted to go to VSU, you saw it on BET College Hill. So your freshman year, how was it?
Freshman year was lit. I mean, of course, like you go through those growing pains of having, being homesick. I'm from California, so that's a long way from Virginia. But I'm just so fortunate. My stepdad, he had family right in Chesterfield County, like 15 minutes from the university. So I always had family. I just built up relationships. It's like a culture shock. I'm Black. I come from a Black, community, but, seeing Black people that's Caribbean, West Indian, African, like it's just a big melting pot. Like I'll never forget when I heard go-go and I was like, what is this? I've never heard this before. So it was definitely lit. So freshman year, I met a radio personality by the name of B Sounds. He's an alpha. And he told me about the Mass Comm Club, and I was a Mass Comm major. He was like, you need to be a part of this club. So I joined Mass Comm Club off the rip. I was a member all 4 years, and I joined the Virginia State University Gospel Chorale, which definitely changed my life.
I love it. So I want to really quickly just stick on, you being from California and you ended up in Virginia. So one thing that's always a conversation is, as HBCU alumni and stakeholders, how we reach out to high school students and middle school students in California, and how do we, extend our outreach to California? So I want to ask you about that. So did you, before college, did you really know about HBCUs in California?
I did know about HBCUs, but I only knew about like Clark, FAMU. I think I knew about Howard a little bit, but it's crazy. I didn't apply to any of those colleges. So what was really fortunate about San Joaquin County was all of the high school students, like the juniors and seniors, or maybe just the seniors, we all came to like the biggest high school in Stockton, and it was just a recruitment fair. Like Virginia State was there, Shaw was there, Hampton was there, both the Lincoln universities were there. So it was so many colleges. And you just had to come prepared. Like, Virginia State was just like, you need to get that ACT score up. So I took it again and I got accepted. But yeah, and then they have the Black College Expo. They have it here in California. It comes in LA, goes up north. So I mean, I wasn't going to a ton of college fairs, but I think my parents did enough to let me know about HBCUs, because I remember at one point I was like, I'm gonna just stay in the California system. But once I seen College Hill, I was like, nah, I'm getting out of here.
Now I feel that. And I think that's something just for, a lot, like I said, a lot of HBCU stakeholders and alumni. We have to look at the influence of media and how we can reach those out west, because a lot of the concentration of HBCU students are down south. I'm from Georgia. You got folks that are from up north, but like we have to look at how we can get students from out west to embrace that culture and come to HBCU. So I think that's pivotal. Now, Sophomore year is always an interesting time, because that's like you're not really an upperclassman, but at the same time, like you're not really an underclassman like that. So what was sophomore year like for you?
Well, sophomore year was a little shaky for me, because honestly, I didn't take enough credit hours my freshman year to even be considered as a sophomore. So I was still technically a freshman. All my friends were upperclassmen, so I still lived in another freshman dorm. I always did exceptionally well in the springtime, and in the fall it got a little shaky. So I think sophomore year was like, okay, I had a reality check, because I remember I was on academic probation, and we did a tour of the radio station 91.3 WBST. And so I was just like, I really want to do radio. Coming into college, I knew I kind of like wanted to do media. I was like, I want to work for BET. But going to the radio station and seeing that I could do this, they had a program for students that I felt like, there's always mass comm majors, but no one was applying there. So after I got on academic probation, it was a possibility I didn't come back. Like, I really just changed everything around, and I started volunteering at the radio station from maybe like my sophomore year to past graduation.
So just in looking at your story, I see that passion for radio. Like I have, clearly, as you can see on SiriusXM, but like I have a huge passion for radio. So, what I really want to know is that how is that passion for radio that festered in your sophomore year? Like, how has that aided you in your career? Because like you said, it started your sophomore year and you worked in radio until you graduated, and even a little bit longer than that. So how is that radio skill and that passion for radio helped you in your career?
I just think radio showed me that you have to wear multiple hats. Like, it was my first introduction into the industry. So, I mean, at 91.3, Miss Williamson, who was the program director, and she's like one of the, the professors in mass comm, I stayed during like one of my winter breaks. And she was like, in radio, you got to come rain, sleet, snow, thunderstorms, you got to make it. And so I just learned, I'm not just the personality. I got to run the board. I got to do the logs. I got to make sure everything for my shift is like running properly. So it taught me how to wear multiple hats. I even interned at Radio Run. And so I kind of had a leg up, because I'm already doing the on-air side, but I learned how to do the promotion side and do the street team and things like that. So radio was the foundation for me. I don't even know like if I would be here without radio, because I just never thought I would be doing anything outside of radio. But because you wear so many multiple hats, it's like you have to learn so many different skill sets in media, period.
Right. And one thing I always say is that radio is honestly like the truest form of media, because you have to do so much. And there's so many entries in, because in TV, it's not a lot of entries in, especially from that entertainment side, because it's national. But if you look at radio, you have the promotions department, you have the sales department, which I was in, which that was a whole nother conversation. Sales is different, but like I answered in from the sales department. But that helped me in really understanding, the industry, and also understanding what I need to do with HBCU Pulse. It helped me understand media more. So I think that, that experience really can help out a lot of media professionals, and that's dope. You got that experience that has aided you. But let's talk about junior year. Let's talk about junior year, because for me, junior year was like my prime. That was my peak. Like that was when I just went crazy. So what was junior year like for you?
Junior year was the only year that I stayed back and I did summer school. So I did summer school. I remember I was working at Kmart, catching the bus. And if you know anything about Petersburg, the buses did not run on Sundays, and they stopped running during the week at like maybe 7 o'clock. So I'm trying to figure out like who's gonna pick me up. And, I had some friends in the area, but I think that, me staying there through summer school so I can catch up and graduate on time was very important. My mom was like, we coming from too far. you need to graduate in May. I don't want you graduating in December. And I think just during that time, like I was, at the radio station, volunteering, just owning up my skill set and just really trying to like prepare to, become a senior, graduate, and see what type of internships were available.
I think that your story, just hearing your story thus far, like I think this needs to be heard because we all have these moments. Like we have these moments where we sort of have this like just middle of the road moment where it's like, man, like what's going on? Like how can I do this? Because I know I had a moment like that my sophomore year where I failed a class, and I don't fail classes, and I'm like, yo, like was this gonna hurt me? Like in the long run, if I'm able to get into the mass comm program. So I think we all have these moments, but as I'm hearing your story, like you found a way to really, get out of that and then become successful. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about your senior year. Like you're like in the senior year, oftentimes, like we have that middle of the road moment and we're trying to figure out what's next. So what was senior year like for you?
Well, senior year was a good time, but it definitely had like those moments of high stress. So at that time I was working at Capital One part-time in their call center. I'm taking 26 credit hours. I had failed one of my elective classes. I think it was like a psychology class or something like that. So I had failed, I had got it together by the end of the semester. And I think I was just kind of like, I had like a lot of anxiety. Like I had never had an anxiety attack, but up until like I was about to graduate, I just had like a really bad anxiety attack because it's like all I know is work and school. And so I'm applying to all of these jobs and everything like that. And I'm not necessarily hearing anything. My parents like, okay, so what you gonna do? You gonna stay in Virginia? You gonna come back home to California? So it was definitely a pivotal moment, but I definitely feel like Virginia State prepared me for everything. Like I came too far to like not show up and show out my senior year.
So how did it feel when you walked across the stage? That's such a euphoric moment. But how did you feel when you walked across the stage?
It was very emotional for me. Like my great grandmother, she's still alive. She was there. My family from Virginia, my immediate family came. Like they actually drove from California, which is still crazy to me. My best friend flew out, so it was a great moment. And actually, like the professor for the class that I was failing, that I ended up passing, like I had seen her, and I was just emotional. I was just like, just thank you for working with me, because it was a struggle, but it definitely like. I remember when I graduated, I felt like the world was at like my fingertips. Like I was like, I can go anywhere in the world. I can go to Milwaukee if I wanted to. And I don't know why Milwaukee was like a place that I was just like, I'm gonna go to. But I just felt like anywhere I wanted to go, like I could do it. Like anything was obtainable. So I definitely felt like super, super powerful.
Hey, listen, Milwaukee got radio stations too now. I would have gone to Milwaukee too. If you give me an on-air position, I'm in Milwaukee at the Bucks game. Don't play with me. All right. So speaking of post-graduation, so I know for a lot of us, it can be hard. And I know in my transition with HBCU Pulse, we focused a lot on student life, and we still do, but I graduated fall 2019. And I'm almost 4 years out of Fort Valley State University, my HBCU. So I know for me, this post-graduation journey has been hard. And oftentimes for me, I like to look at folks that made it in the media industry to see how their journey was after college. So what was your immediate post-graduation journey like?
Okay, so my journey to where I'm at today it was a long journey. So I'm trying to like make it very short. Okay, so when I graduated, I still worked at Capital One. I hated it. I was at the call center, didn't like it, but I was still volunteering at Virginia State radio station. From the connections at Virginia State's radio station, I got a job at a radio station in Roanoke Rapids, 99.5 Gems. So I would commute an hour, 15 minutes. I was working 1 day a week, $7.25 an hour. I'm clearly doing it for the passion, right? I stayed there about almost a year. I got laid off. One of my friends, DJ 321, he got me the job there. Went to Virginia State. He was like, "Oh, there's going to be a station being built in Charlotte." Well, that never happened, but I still was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to Charlotte because this is a place that's more opportunities." Worked at another call center, quit that job to take an unpaid internship at Charlotte Motor Speedway in their communications department, because I'm like, the more experience I get in the communication and media field will help me. These call center jobs are not. After I finished my internship, I had interviewed with like Fox Sports, the CW, a whole bunch of places, couldn't get a job. Went back to a call center, was depressed, moved back to California. Moving back to California was definitely better for my career. I mean, I didn't land a job immediately in 2015. I was doing admin work, which was better than working on the phones. I started volunteering at a TV station in Oakland called Our TV. Wasn't getting paid, again, volunteering, because I knew that I needed to get more experience. And then I branched out on my own. Like I worked at Enterprise, got fired because I hated that job too. Went to a nonprofit, and things kind of got better because I was a communications associate. And through the strength of AKA, I reached out to one of my sorority sisters, and she was working at a blog. And I was like, I really don't have too much experience writing for, media, like urban media, but I knew how to write. Like I was doing press releases. I wrote about sports. So she gave me the chance. I got the opportunity to learn there. I got quickly promoted with that outlet. And then I left because I was unhappy. So I be quitting jobs if I'm unhappy. But the pandemic was a pandemic. So, thank God for EDD. But my friends kept saying, China, the Shade Room is hiring. And they had told me while I was working at the blog, and I was just like, I'm happy where I'm at. And then the opportunity came again, and I applied on Indeed, got the job, and the rest is history.
Hey, listen, you said the Shade Room. Everybody's like, man, the Shade Room. Let's talk about the Shade Room. We're going to get to that, okay? Because this is China Lovelace. It's not just the Shade Room. It's China Lovelace. So we're going to get to that in a second. But before we do get to just your professional journey, I want to pause and just get, just advice from you about, what HBCU students that aspire to get into the media can do, because there's so many resources. You have, of course, social media now. Of course, the social audio space is popping now. You have TikTok and YouTube doing their thing. It's so many ways to grow your brand. And now you have the influencer industry. So it's so many ways for folks to grow in this industry, but it's still a lot of folks that don't know where to start. So just, as someone that's successful in this field and that has such an amazing journey to get where you are, what is your advice to HBCU media students on how to make it?
You gotta start now. There's not gonna be a perfect moment. It's like, I wish I would have been a YouTuber. My mom was telling me for years, like, China, you need to be on YouTube. Like, I wish I would have took that seriously in 2012 before I graduated college. I would have been like so different. Even like podcasting, that was the thing that I wanted to do. Wasn't nobody talking about podcasts in 2012, but if I would have did it, who knows where my career would have been at like now. But if there's something that you want to do, just do it. Start now. Always bet on yourself. Y'all heard me talk about quitting jobs, getting fired from jobs, doing unpaid internships, quitting jobs to do unpaid internships because I knew the bigger picture. I have a lot of classmates that were mass comm majors, but there's only a handful of us that's actually working in the industry. It's a hustle. It's not going to be easy. When you first starting off, you might have to take a job. Like I said, I was making $7.25. You might got to work a couple of jobs, because I worked at radio stations in between, like even when I was in Charlotte and I wasn't making no money. I was on food stamps at one time. I wasn't mad because I was getting fed, but you got to take those risks, take those resources with you, and just, start now. The internet is an easy platform. Social media is easy. Just kind of figure out what you want to do. Like YouTube is free. If you see somebody like HBCU, or if you Greek, like if you reach out to somebody, like people reach out to me all the time, like, hey, I'm interested in internships or whatever the situation is. I got advice. HBCU grads, or even HBCU students, we look out for our own community. No matter what school you went to, we want to see you succeed. So don't be afraid to knock on that door, send a DM, send an email, be persistent to get what you want, because you are the force of your own career.
I love it. I love it. Like you're giving commencement speaker energy. We love to see it. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna be covering the commencement for you. Gonna be posted on the Shade Room from Pulse again, like we did, how we did earlier this spring. But I love it. That's such great advice. And the part about networking is important because we do help each other out. I think that's the big component of the HBCU community that people don't know is that HBCU students, one thing we know how to do is network. And that's the same thing with HBCU alumni. So you have to use your network to build up where you're going. And I think that that's super important. But let's get into the main event, right? Because you work for the Shade Room and you've worked for so many different outlets. You have, so much experience. But the one thing I want to really touch on is the fact that you get to these stories so quickly. Like sometimes you scoop me. All right. I like HBCU life is what I do. And I'm like, yo, what's going on in Clark Atlanta? Like what? How do you get to these stories so quickly? And how do you put it out so quickly?
We just, me and my colleagues, we're just always like scouring the web. Like, we have different people we follow on Twitter, different news outlets. I follow people on my personal page. Of course, I have all the HBCU pages. The roommates do send us stuff in the DMs. They like, Shade Room, get on this. Shade Room, why y'all ain't posted this? Shade Room, y'all late. So, I mean, it's multiple people on the team. It's not just me. But we all just work together like, hey, G-Hope Bro posted this. I'm grabbing this. Or, oh my gosh, Jania just announced her pregnancy. I grabbed that. I'm putting this together. I'm posting on the page. So we just always looking to see what's out there. And just grabbing it to, make sure it's first. And, sometimes with the Shade Room, for example, when someone passes away, unfortunately, we're not always in a rush to put that out, because if it's a rumor circulating on the web, we have to make sure that it's credible. So, for example, Gangsta Boo just passed away, and I was the one that had to report that. We weren't the first people to put it out, because, I can't just go off of what Facebook is saying. I got to see something actual and factual. So a lot of people be trying to say, talk about the Shade Room, but we are a credible news source. So we posting something, it's credible.
It's like a heavy on credible for real. And that's what people don't understand that. Like, one thing I learned at Fort Valley from my professor, Dr. Booz, that really taught me about news is reliable sources are everything. You have to verify the source, especially at a time of so much misinformation everywhere. And that's one thing I think you all do with the Shade Room so well, is that there is a level of editorial standard. Just because people don't think it don't mean it ain't there. You know what I mean? So one thing that I really am big on, and when I interviewed Angie Wanda, who's the founder of the Shade Room back in 2021, I asked her about, the boss, the big boss. So, I asked her about this, and I'm real big on like mental health and separating yourself from the business and the grind. Like, how do you separate China Lovelace from the Shade Room? And how do you separate, the person from the brand?
It's hard, that's something I still struggle with. I'm the first to say, like, I'm addicted to social media, because even when I'm off the clock, people will come and send me stuff to my own personal DM. Like, China, can you look into this? It's something important. I get tagged into posts. So it's really hard sometimes to just be like, I'm off the page. Like, I'm not at work. Send it to somebody, get somebody else to do it. But I'm really, really trying on it. Like, I know, like, sometimes, like, if there was something that I didn't do during the week, I would work on it during the weekends. I've stopped that. So I've set a boundary. Like, I have to do my work while I'm at work during my work week. But, it's a habit of nature. Like, I want the Shade Room to be first and have the tea, or, just even news. If I'm not there, I'll send it to my coworkers. Like, did y'all see this? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, girl, we putting it together. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, no, we didn't see this. Thank you. Like, this will work really well for the page. So, I'm still trying to find my balance, even though I'm 2 years in, and setting more boundaries.
Hey, that's important. And I remember I talked to Angie about that, and you watched the interview. I sort of was like, I don't know how to do that. I still don't. Okay. I'm getting better at figuring it out, but I've not figured it out yet. So that's actually helped me. I need to set some more boundaries. But I really need to. Let's go back to just the importance of the Shade Room, because you said something very key about that reliable information and always making sure that you're on top of information.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the importance of the Shade Room, because oftentimes, it's called into question. And I personally hate it, because I know in what I've studied of the Shade Room, and, I look up to Angie and I look up to what you all do, how we run polls. And you always are first in information, and you always are facilitating the conversation. And when I interviewed Angie back in 2021, I asked her about the importance of the Shade Room, and this is what she said. What do you think your place is at the Shade Room? What do you think your place is in the media and overall conversation in America?
You know what? So my place is to give the black culture and black people a platform, right? To have a more complete representation. So, so at the end of the day, we report the positive, the negative, everything concerning Black culture, right? We report on it, and we believe in conversation, and we believe that conversation moves people forward.
And I think that that's important, because you need that duality. And I think that that's the brilliance of, number one, Black media, but also I think that's the brilliance of the Shade Room. But I can't say it better than you because you've been there for 2 years. So to you, as someone that works for the Shade Room, what is the importance of the Shade Room to the conversation and the Black community?
Yeah, I think the Shade Room is very important. We are the culture. We're reporting on the culture, factual. And like Angie said, we're going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're not going to see the Black excellence posts on other outlets. You're not going to see the tech posts on other outlets. You're not going to see the HBCU posts on other outlets. The raising awareness, just the social stories that people care about, and just doing it with the level of reporting that you don't have to worry if it's true or not. A lot of people say, well, if the Shade Room don't post it, I don't believe it. And that's how you know that we are factual. You're not going to see trial coverage like the Shade Room does on any other page. So people will say, oh, the Shade Room is detrimental to the Black community. We're this, we're that. But we're doing what we need to do, because if somebody else was doing it, y'all would be saying the same thing about them. But, nobody is touching the Shade Room. We are our own, the standard. Everybody is following behind us, which is, I guess imitation is the best form of flattery. But I think that the Shade Room is just going to continue to grow. Different things that are going to be coming, and we just getting bigger and better.
Bigger and better for sure. And I want to just say you were totally right, because they ain't posted HBCU posting these other platforms to the Shade Room posted. We've been on there twice. I got a two ball on there twice. Did interview Angie Wandu and China Lovelace. Listen, legacy. All right, we making it happen, But that's a great segue into the conversation about legacy, because ultimately I think that even subliminally, we all want to leave a legacy that is remembered and honored. And you have just journalistic greats such as Ida B. Wells, for example. Even, what Frederick Douglass did, in his time in the press. We're that new vanguard of media, so we're going to have a legacy moving forward. So for you, with the great work you're doing with the Shade Room, with your writing and your reporting and your sourcing, what do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done?
That's a hard question. I just want people to know, I'm an HBCU girl through and through. I'm a media girl. I'm from the Bay. I rep Stockton. I'm always going to put that in the forefront. I'm always going to try to move with dignity as grace, as an Alpha Kappa Alpha woman should and does. And I just want y'all to see, I got it out the mud. I have a great family, a great support system, a great circle of friends that are cheering on me, motivating me, pushing me through when times are hard, when, I couldn't see the way out. Just know, I have perseverance, and the Shade Room is just an introduction to the media for me. Even though I've been doing it, I haven't been doing it on a platform as this big. So I want people to be like, dang, China was on the Shade Room and now she doing, something else, something big. So I just want y'all to know, I'm here to stay, and I'm gonna just take everything that I've been given and give it back to the community and people that's coming after me.
I love it. I love it. You're already doing so many amazing things, and you're already inspiring people, and you're giving us that news. I'm very serious. I learned about some HBCU stuff from you, and I look China Lovelace. I'm like, okay, it's stories I can specifically point to where it's yeah, you got to it before me, So you're doing an amazing job within that, and I think that's important. You're building your legacy very well from my vantage point. So yes, no problem at all. So let's talk about your radio show. This is such a full circle moment because of all the work you did in radio. So let's talk about the Shade Room Live on Amazon's app, AMP. So tell us about the show.
So, yes, it definitely is a full circle moment. I honestly didn't think that, I would have this opportunity at the Shade Room. So I'm really just grateful and fortunate that they picked me as one of the co-hosts. But yeah, so it's a new show. We just launched it in December. And basically it's very different. It's not like what you're going to see on the page. It's more facts, news stories. We're talking about trending topics. We have our fan integration section where we, play games with the roommates, and the roommates be cutting up on that app. They really be cutting up. And we have a celebrity guest that comes in, but I just like it because it's not focused on mess. Like it's just like more lighthearted. Like you get to really see me, Lajane, and Cleo Thomas's personalities come through, and like it's just a different way to engage with the roommates. And they've been really, really receptive of it.
And Lajane, shout out to Lajane. Did she go to Jackson State?
I love that she would say, but yes, she did attend Jackson State University. That's my girl.
Hey, listen, shout out to her. Listen, the Shade Room taps in with HBCUs. Like they need to know. The Shade Room taps in for sure. So how has it been like returning to radio in this new format? Because I know, for a lot of folks, they think radio is dead. And that's what I deal with when a lot of folks, and I was honestly telling them about SiriusXM. They're like, oh, radio? And it's like, first of all, I love radio. And also radio's not dead because radio has done what other industries hasn't done, which is it's rebranded itself to the audio industry. Podcasting is a part of it. You have a SiriusXM, terrestrial radio, social audio. It's a part of it. So this is such a new format. So how is it working in radio and audio in this new format?
It's amazing. Like you said, like it's just a different rebrand. Like we are focused on the radio show, but we do have our clips that go on to the Shade Room's YouTube channel. So we have our highlights that go out. So it's cool, like being glammed and going on set, because that's something different. Because radio, most of the time you in the station. So I really do like that aspect, and I just think it's like staying attached with the times, like staying on the wave.
It is. And radio, if you're a radio person, you're definitely on tap to what's going on. Music, culture, news, and people don't know that. Like, that's really why we the best. Because I can finally say we, because now I got a radio show, so it's crazy. What I'm saying? I can finally say we. But listen, China, this was an amazing interview. I have so many more questions. I wish we had more time. But, we got to go on and go because you have so many amazing things that you're doing. So I want to get this before we go. Where can we find you on social media and how can we support you? Because, when I say that often, I don't mean like, hey, just follow me here and there. I mean, like, how can we support what China Lovelace is doing and what you have coming up? Like, so where can we find you and how can we support you?
So on all social media platforms, I'm on TikTok too. Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, China, just like the country, _Lovelace. Just like it sounds, no extra E's or nothing like that. China _Lovelace. How you can support me, of course, if you see a post that I made on the Shade Room that says China Lovelace, of course, comment, share. Definitely tune in to the show live on AMP, the Shade Room Radio live on AMP. We're doing Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. As far as things that I have outside of the Shade Room, I do social media consultations and just consultations calls. People are always asking me like how they can be on the Shade Room, how they can help elevate their brand. So I take consultation calls. And I also do help with social media strategy because a lot of the times people just don't know what to post. If you have a business or just your own personal brand, I help with that because I'm on social media all day. So I got to know something, right? So if you have questions, just send me a DM. Working on getting my website up to date. But yeah, just send me a DM on Instagram and we can get you locked in.
Most definitely. We love to see it. Hey, we're gonna make sure people know about that. So definitely let me know. We'll blast that out for sure. Definitely, behind you. Love what you're doing, especially coming from Virginia State, because I feel as if oftentimes, and I hear this often with HBCU Pulse, is a lot of our HBCUs are left out the conversation. And I know with HBCU Pulse, what I want to do is I want to make sure the Fort Valleys and the VSUs and the Albany States and the Benedicts, I want to make sure that our institutions are uplifted. So I appreciate you for what you've done coming from Virginia State and also what you're continuing to do with the Shade Room in informing our community. So I really appreciate you. Make sure to check out the Shade Room live on Amazon's app AMP. You can download it in the Apple App Store and also on the Google Play Store, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays. And make sure to tap in with China Lovelace on the Shade Room. All right. But thank you so much for coming on, China.
Thank you for having me and more success for you because you're doing your big one too.
Thank you. Hey, guys, we're going to be right back in a second. You're listening to HBCU Pulse Radio on SiriusXM.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to HBCUPulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.